Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 47 of the Chadcast. I am joined today by Alex Norvill, who is the marketing manager of LSS. At least that's what the emails that he sends to me are. So I guess just to start off, before we get into anything, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe I met you for the first time at I think it was the dinner LSS dinner at Worlds, wasn't it? You were Bravo, and you had just got brought onto the team, or
Yeah, I'd been on the team for about a year as an
oh,
account
okay.
manager, and I was kind of in the transitioning phase, moving from the like organized play account management team to the sort of content and marketing team. So part of that being in Worlds, and I was kind of tripping around the States at the time, going to local game stores and things. And part of that was like the transition where I was doing all this filming and everything. And yeah, I just happened to be Bravo at the time at Worlds, decided to cosplay, and didn't have time to make it to the hotel before we had to go to dinner. So it was, yeah, dinner and cosplay, and that was fun.
I mean, it made it memorable for me at the very least. Okay, so that makes more sense that you were switching over because I do remember you saying that you were taking over Chris Bewley at the time and you were in that transition period. So I guess I'm just misremembering. I mean, you'll have to forgive me. Worlds was an absolute blur. There was so much going on. It's you don't remember all the fine details. But
Yeah.
as the marketing manager, I guess we'll just start off here. What does your job entail then?
All right. It's a funny one because I guess we've come a long way since the start of the year when I first kind of started in this role. So initially it was very much like, I mean, the first thing that I had to take over was basically previous season and content creator sort of collaborations, and management and things. So things that you see like the gauntlet videos that we put up on our YouTube channel, pretty much just managing the YouTube channel as well, and the social media. So when I kind of came on, we had a smaller team than we do now. So I was wearing a lot of hats. And I basically was kind of given Outsiders was well, the History Pack 1 Blitz sticks, and Outsiders were like my first two kind of products that I was starting to work on with the marketing and things like that. And I had pretty much told the team, I was like, look, we should be doing more video stuff for these sets and everything. So that's where like the Outsiders trailer kind of first was like the first of what we've been doing regularly now. But that was one of the things that I kind of just started making. And so it's kind of like it's like product marketing, and then the content creator community focused social media, that sort of stuff, which obviously those kind of tie hand in hand. And then event marketing as well, which we've now ramped up. It used to be pretty like, the bare minimum with what we could with the sort of resources that we had for it. So yeah, just general all marketing, and then yeah, working with some partners, different sort of media companies and things wherever we can to spread the good word of Fab. So yeah, but now it's a bit more defined. I'm definitely more marketing side of things now. We've actually got a team, which helps, and we've got Kashan, our content writer, who is just a wizard. Does a great job on the website, and because I got thrown in the deep end with that when I first started, and I was like writing recap articles and things for like the Calling Auckland and different skirmish seasons and all these things. So yeah, now we've got more of a structured team. It's looking good now, and you could probably tell with the quality increase and the things that we're putting out, the regular social posts and all the rest of it. But yeah, sort of a bit of everything, to be honest. Yeah,
Jack of all trades for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely now pushing more into the like content creator collaborations, and like product marketing and event marketing. Actually, I'm now also going to be getting involved in streaming, so that's a new responsibility that's coming on board. But yeah, just just that general stuff.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because I was gonna say, it was funny because when you mentioned starting to do videos for things, I literally wrote down out first video because that's when I remember when the quality of what you guys are putting out for trailers, just that was the first time. Obviously using all the moving cards and having all that, and then doing, great voiceovers. I remember the Dust Till Dawn. I remember the guy who voiced Bolton was just absolutely amazing. Like it was just like the perfect voice fit for that character. And the quality has been incredible, as well as the documentary that you made, because I do believe that was that all you, like just your own personal passion project for the company?
Not really. So like it was something that we'd set out to do. It was honestly, it was all like the most just crazy coincidence timing. I had the opportunity to go over to the States as when I was an account manager, and I was like, well, I just went to the directors and I was like, look, I should probably take a camera over and like do some filming and things. Like this is stuff that we're gonna need. And so I sorted that out, took a little mirrorless camera over, and it just happened that we were working with a sort of, I guess, like a production company to get some filming done for the first World Championship, in the goal of kind of making a documentary type of like evergreen, this is flesh and blood type of piece. And so it just kind of worked out that I was over there at the time. I then went to Worlds and worked with the film crew there, because obviously the film crew didn't know anything about flesh and blood, so I had to show them around and tell them like this is this is cool, this is what we do, introduce them to community members and all the rest of it. And yeah, from there we collated a bunch of footage. And then just over the past year, I mean, these things are are a lot slower than I kind of initially anticipated. And that's just because one, there's like so much footage, and two, it's like we still have all the business as usual. Like we still got to run the LSS. I got to do all the other stuff. So we ended up working with a production company. So Miles is the production company, and there was a sort of editing house that we worked with as well, that helped sort of put the final thing together with sort of the direction of like myself and Matt, we've got a new content and marketing director, Matt, who's come on board, and between him and I, we sort of told them like this is this sort of story we're trying to tell, and everything like that. And then I provided all the footage that I had taken to sort of tie in the whole like local game store, like store to stage type of thing, because the footage and like the night we've got some really nice B-roll thanks to that camera crew from Worlds and everything like that, and some stuff from Pro Tour Baltimore. But yeah, we like it was. I'm glad that I took the footage when I took it, not really knowing if it was going to be used or not, but I'm just like, hey, like anything's good. And so yeah, we managed to sort of tie that messaging in, which was the goal, because it's like that's what, it's cool to show off the big tournaments and the cash prizing and all the rest of it, but it's like that starts at the store. So that really had to be the core message of like why we do it. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it was fun.
so it's interesting. So okay, so that does make sense. So I'm imagining for certain projects and that, like being a company, like there's only so much a small team can handle, right? Obviously, you're still a growing company. As you had mentioned, like you're just now building up a team for the marketing department, whereas like before it was like you were just kind of wearing all the hats. And so I think, like I'm assuming that that's just kind of like a regular practice, as certain things just kind of get outsourced to other teams that you can work with while they do kind of more of the legwork for editing the videos and that.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure you're aware how much of a slog editing can be, right? So like, man, like I've spent countless hours editing videos that one of the first things my bosses were saying was like, you need to start learning. The first thing that you learn is that you need to start like delegating things. The more you can get more done by delegating than trying to do it all yourself. And that was kind of one of the problems I had, where I was like, oh, I can do this. I know how to do this. And so I would just try to do it all. And yeah, so we do certainly outsource. I mean, like I don't animate any of those trailer videos. It's certainly not me. That's well beyond my skill set. So I have a great animator that I work with, Carlos. He's super cool. Plays Flesh and Blood as well, which is super helpful. And yeah, he does a phenomenal job. So I pretty much just like when a new set comes out, look through the art and things, write the script and the storyboard and sort of figure out what I want it to look like. And then I make like a real rough version on Premiere Pro. And then I send it over to him. I'm like, yo, like this is what we want to do. Like these transitions would look pretty cool. Can you make this look good for me? And he does a great job. Yeah, so outsourcing has been a huge thing. And honestly, like, and this is something that I've said. I don't know if I've said it. I've probably said it publicly as well. But like, the Flesh and Blood community is great, man. Like, there are so many talented people within the Flesh and Blood community, and being in the position that I am, where I'm like pretty sort of, I guess, like connected and engaged with the community. I hit up content creators all the time, and I'm like, hey, like, do you want to help out with this sort of thing? And just contract people. Like, because we've only just started doing these trailers and things, we had no idea what budget was like, right? And it's not like we've got Hollywood level budget for any of this sort of stuff. So I hit up Del Pera, like Paranine, if you remember him. He voiced the Outsiders trailer, and that just came from a conversation that I had at Worlds with him, where he was saying something, because I know he narrated a bunch of the lore and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, if you need someone for like voice acting stuff, and I didn't think I would or know I would at the time, but I just like had that in the back of my mind, and it was like Outsiders, and he has like this really good like deep gruff voice and stuff, and I just hit him up and I'm like, hey man, like, we're looking at making this, like, do you think you could voice this, like, this rough assassin boss dude? And he was like, yeah. And like 12 hours later, he sent me like 10 takes, and they were all so sick. And I just was like, oh, cool, man. Thank you. So yeah, the community has been a huge help for different things. I mean, yeah, we're in a fortunate situation that we can actually do that, because it means we can do a lot with the smaller resources that we had at the time. But now we're just looking to keep up on the quality.
Yeah, that is something I actually noticed about Flesh and Blood. And like, not to get too into the weeds, but like compared to a lot of other games that have come out, I've noticed that, if you look at the community and the people that are attracted to the games, I think it tells you a lot about a game's longevity, about the quality of the game itself, and about how people feel about it. Because like Flesh and Blood captured so many very like just what is the word I want to use? Like intense people, like people, like you said, a lot of people with a lot of skills who bring a lot to the table. You brought a lot of people on. I think the best example is Three Floating, like the quality of content and the enthusiasm those guys have just to bring the best content they can to the YouTube sphere for Flesh and Blood, and to show how fun the game is. You've got people like Saint and Rudy that were willing to back the game in the very early days. Like when you have people willing to put a ton of money behind something, as well as stay faithful to the game over the years, even when it's not doing, periods where it wasn't doing well, like after Monarch tanked, everything was kind of a dumpster fire, they still, supported the game. And people are still coming in. I think it just shows how amazing of a thing that has been created here, like just to see so many people really rallying behind it and being willing to put their all into bringing the best stuff they can. So absolute kudos to you guys for that. Now, one thing I want to ask. So have you ever watched, it was a promotional video for War of the Spark from Magic, and it was the Liliana video where it's got Linkin Park's in the end. Have you ever seen that video?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is that like the bar that you guys hope to get to someday, of like an impactful video like that for one of your sets?
For sure. Alright, so like I definitely watched that, and I was like, I basically watched all the Magic trailers, and I was like, we should be doing this. Like, why are we not doing this? And I mean, the first most obvious reason was budget, right? Like
Yeah.
that stuff cost a lot of money to get to, the whole 3D like animation.
That one probably millions of dollars. Like,
Oh yeah, like
yeah.
it's actually insane when you start looking into how much this stuff costs. Because I didn't have a background in animation or film production or anything like that, so I really was just going in blind. But yeah, it's expensive. I like yeah. On one hand, it's kind of like, yeah, that's I guess you could say that's the quality level we want to get to. But there's also a part of me that, and I've kind of talked with other people about this who kind of agree that it's like, I don't know if the whole like 3D animation is really the vibe for Flesh and Blood in a way. Like there's something about the art style that makes it like I could see it. I could see it almost being a kind of hybrid between the two. You know,
Mhm.
where it like almost like what was that spot? You know those Spider-Man movies that went
Across the
crazy.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, yeah. You
The
know how
animated
that had
ones.
that different. Yeah, yeah. So that animation there was like really impactful for for what it was, because it doesn't look super like, it looks like a drawing type of thing, like it looks
Mhm.
like a comic like art, and I get that they're going for that comic sort of style. Um and I wonder if we can sort of get a mix of like 3D and like art looking like, I mean, just looking at the flesh and blood art, like what it looks like, because it doesn't look super 3D, you know what I mean, like when you see it's a weird one.
If I could be very honest with you, I think an art style or an animation style would be more the anime style, like more of a 2D animation. Maybe
Mm.
not like going super far into the, I guess, like I don't know how I would say it, the weeby anime style, I guess, the
Yeah,
gigantic
yeah, yeah.
anime tits and all that kind of stuff. But I could see even something like more stylized, like you could think of something like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which wasn't technically like Asian anime, but or Japanese anime, but kind of in that art style is what I could see Flesh and Blood being in, more of a 2D drawn style. I think would fit really well.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. That's kind of and I love Avatar. Yeah. So that that's certainly, yeah, kind of the direction I can see it going. Like that, but more detailed, I think, as
Yeah,
well.
like
Like it's
quite
probably
literally just
the level.
yeah, like take the characters off the cards in 2D and just move them, like have them move as characters and build the world behind it. And I think just the art style we
Mm,
have, translating that a little bit into an animation style would probably be, I mean, obviously the moving cards in the trailers you guys are making, they already like it already looks really good. Like quite frankly, like the stuff
mm,
looks really high quality for like it's very clear when I'm watching it. It's like, oh, this is made, way cheaper than a lot of other marketing things. But I feel like in a way that constraint of finance, it breeds creativity. It's like, okay, well, this is what we got to work with, like let's do the coolest thing we possibly can. But you can see the drive to do something really cool with it. It's not like you guys are just like show some cards and have a whatever, who cares, like let's just get the video, say we're dropping this set and that be that. You guys are,
mm.
going as above and beyond as you possibly can, as well as including the community, as you said. I mean, obviously it's released just today. I believe it was just today, the Drunken Wager song, or was that yesterday? I think it was
Yeah,
yesterday
yeah.
evening,
I think it was
maybe.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I wasn't in it, but that was, and as I had emailed you, I was
Mhm.
filming. I was gonna do audio, and I recorded both the audios. I was gonna do high and low, and I was gonna do a thing with the green screen where I had myself and Mr. Ribbits, and I'd edit it where we were
Nice.
basically standing back to back and like singing our
Yeah.
parts, kind of thing. I got the audio recorded, and then my mom had called me, and that's when I found out that my aunt, my fam, somebody I was close to had passed away, and after that it was like, okay, I just, it was only a couple days till it was due, and I'm like, I can't like be jovial, I can't sit here,
Yeah. Oh, of course.
so I had to sit this one out. But hopefully, I know I'm assuming that you're planning on doing more stuff with the community, because I think that's a really great way of getting people engaged. It's a great way of driving marketing, and just Flesh and Blood and your guys' company feels very almost like it's almost like welcoming, like you guys are friendly towards the community, where it's like, hey, we're all in this together, kind of thing. It's like we're all,
For sure.
a part of this game, whereas like it's so different because I'll just use Magic as the example, but there's tons of examples even in like the video game world, where it's like you've got this cold calculating company at the top with the business suits, and they don't care about everything else, and they delegate down below them, and everybody who does care about the game is like, they're actually making it, but they don't make any of the top decisions. And it's this like kind of weird feeling even when they do promotions. Like Magic was doing this like IHOP pancakes, like they were getting like pancake
Yeah.
points for like
Bro, that
arena. And it
seems so weird.
and then when they're sending out like creator gifts and that, it's like a picnic basket and plates with like the Magic symbols on them. And it's just stuff that like it feels so detached from reality. It's like you can tell that this is somebody who doesn't live in the real world. Like that's somebody that lives in some big city and in their ivory tower, quite literally, probably a multimillionaire, like the heads of Wizards and Hasbro are. And they don't have any connection to the people who are actually like fans of the game. Whereas like with LSS, it's like I quite literally I just reached out to you on Twitter and was like, hey, do you want to come on the chatcast? And you're like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. Like it's you guys are literally within like a contacting distance, and I think that's just so it's so different. Do you think though? Do you think that that's going to be able to be kept up in the long term, or do you think eventually there is going to be some growing distance as the game grows?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. It's one of those things where I think it will just we're never gonna just distance ourselves from the community. Obviously, we're pretty open, pretty communicative, and I think that's the best thing to do. It's like, you guys are the fans, right? Like, why would we not listen to the people that are fans of the game? It's, it's kind of like, it seems really obvious. So I don't know why it isn't more common in things. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this is like, from our standpoint, we're creating something, and the whole intention of it is like, it's kind of like by trading card game players for trading card game players. Like, that's, and without it like turning into some like marketing like chat like that really just is what it is. And it's pretty obvious even just inside LSS when you're talking with we have like monthly sort of chats amongst the company, and James sort of walks us through like what's going on and the rest of it. And it's really clear, like, all the time, that it's like, look, the decisions that are being made are so that we can keep this game continuing on for years and years and years, because it's still hard to manage a trading card game. And just economically, it's like there's always sort of challenges and things like that. So it's like balancing, like, yeah, look, we want to keep this thing going, we want to manage this business properly, but every decision that is made is always with the like community, the players, the local game stores in mind, because like that's where these guys came from. It's weird for me, it's really cool to see, but like I didn't come from this personally. I wasn't I never played trading card games. Like, I had some Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was a kid, but I didn't know how to play it. It was just like, whoever's got the most stars wins, like that was how I saw it. And I had never really been into local game stores or anything before I started with the company. To be frank, I didn't even know this existed. I didn't realize this industry was as big as it was. And so it's like been really cool and refreshing to see that this exists and that it can exist, because things like, it's very easy for companies to just get really profit driven. Because when the profits start rolling in, it's like, that's probably, if I was the person like in charge of the company and seeing that coming in, I'd be like, yo, like, this is sweet. Like, let's keep this going. But like, that's for James and the boss, like everyone in who's, the sort of top of LSS, like, it's really clear that it's like, that's not the drive. Like, the drive is just to get people to come and join this community and have fun and everything like that. I was talking to someone actually the other day, and they were saying like, I was like saying like, we're trying to get people into Flesh and Blood so that they can like get out of their house and like go to their game store and meet people. And it's like, we're like, he was saying, it's like, oh yeah, we're kind of like touch grass, like the whole touch grass thing of like cards. And so it's kind of like touch cardboard or something like that. Like, we just want people to go out, meet people, have fun, be a part of a community, and the game's good, which helps. And there's some pretty sick IP and cool heroes. So yeah, like I find a lot of my decisions when I'm doing stuff is kind of like, what's the most fun? Like, what's the coolest thing? Like, that's where this drunken wager thing came from. We were like, oh, we've got this cool wager mechanic. It'd be pretty cool to make a promo with it and stuff like that. And then we were just like, oh, like, rather than getting it animated and everything, why don't we just like, so I was always dead set on making a song. And this is partly because I was like singing like some sea shanties with some of my boys, like at a party, like we were all drunk, just like singing sea shanties in an office. And it was hilarious. Like, it felt so cool. It felt so like connected, because it was just like, you had all these people like shouting, like, and everything. And I was like, man, it would be so sick if we could do this at an event like for Flesh and Blood, and we had like a Flesh and Blood song. I was like, we should just get the community to do that, like make this drunken, like, we'll make the song and everything like that, and then we'll just put it out to the community and get everyone involved. And the whole reason for that was just like, this would be fun. that's pretty much where it came from. So it's like, I guess that's kind of just another example of like what we're what we're trying to do. Like whether or not that was the best marketing decision, I was pretty nervous to be honest, because I was like, I don't know what's gonna come back, but yeah, we would just roll with it.
Well, it honestly seems like people really went all out with it. They did some pretty cool
Yeah,
pieces. Everybody was dressed up, and you could see them at their
yeah,
LGS.
yeah,
I was gonna do it at my LGS. Like a couple of the guys were like, "Ooh, we don't know. Like that could be a little embarrassing to do in public, you know?" Because usually when we go to play Fab, there's like some guys there either playing Warhammer or playing Commander as well. So it's like, "Oh, do you really want to do
yeah,
this?"
yeah,
And so, but then I realized that I normally go on the Saturday nights. That's when we do Fab on at that one. And then I remembered like 2 days before that, like, oh wait, yeah, I have my work Christmas party Saturday night. I can't go to the LGS. Like the boss has already signed me up for the Christmas party. He's already paid for the dinners and
yeah,
everything. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not doing that. Which would have been a great time because I was, I had several drinks, so I was a little drunk too. I would have sang some sea shanties, no problem. Um,
yeah.
but no, I really do love how you guys really approach things. Like it's so clear, like when you say it, that there is a ton of passion for the game from the company and everybody who works in it. There is just that sense of fun and just like it's I think I like when you say that you were doing it with your friends and you were like, this is so cool, like let's just bring it to Fab, because I feel like the best way to decide like what would other people like is just to honestly look at yourself and your own friends and be like, what do we like what, you know, because the people who are playing it, like quite frankly, are basically just like you. Like when the company's full of gamers like people like us, it's like then all you have to do is be like, what do I find fun? It's probably what a lot of other people find fun, unless you're somebody who plays Control, and then you don't know what fun is. But no, I have to give you huge props for that. Like it just and I know I've seen it on Twitter as well. I'm sure you have, where everybody is basically saying the same thing. Where like ever since you stepped up to the plate and you've been doing more and more for the game, the quality of everything is getting really good. It's you know, everybody's seeing that passion and everybody's loving the promotional pieces. Because one of the things that used to be, and I think still is, I guess a criticism of LSS is that you guys haven't been the most amazing at marketing the game. Like it was a little lacking on social media for the longest time, which is now like completely 180'd. I swear there's like a new tweet from the official Flesh and Blood page like every day or two. Which it has. Have you guys hired somebody specifically for that, for like running the social
Yeah,
media?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's where like we've grown our marketing team like out of necessity, clearly. And yeah, we have another marketing coordinator now. Shout out to Beck, who's been like just killing it on social media. Social media is actually a lot of work. You know, you don't even really realize it, but just managing it. Like I understand why a social media manager is like a job because it is a bit of work. And until we had Vic on, it was like just me, but I was doing all the rest of the stuff. And it was just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I'll get out what I need to get out, but I don't have time to like be thinking up and doing all the rest of it. And you know, it's just quite time consuming. So yeah, we've expanded the team, and it helps for sure.
Okay, so we're totally not going to act like I just had to cut a little bit out. Trying to fix the visual. If you've been watching this at all, you can see that poor Alex here looks very garbled, very, pixelated, you could say. But unfortunately, we can't get that to work. Luckily, the audio is still good. So, and let's be real, this is a podcast. You put it on in the background, you don't even look at the screen because we're just
Exactly.
sitting here talking. So, I guess since we're kind of ended where we were talking there, I guess what I want to ask now is you've obviously talked about working with content creators, and right now we're heading into the heavy hitter spoiler season, which I just received the spoiler that I'm getting. And as I said before we started filming, thank you. I am very happy with it. It's really cool. Um, and so something that I've even gotten asked as like advice for what to do, and I never have a full answer. Like it's obvious that a lot of people want spoiler cards if they're a creator. I guess the base question, I think I remember you answering this during the Living Legends podcast quite a while ago. I couldn't find it, but I guess the question is like, is there anything specifically that you guys look for when you're considering creators to give spoiler cards? During spoiler season.
Yeah. So I guess this is it's kind of like I guess I could just say it's complicated, right? Like, essentially, we we try to let the actual set itself dictate like who the cards go to. So like our first priority is typically matching cards that suit different creators for whatever reason. Like I mean, so like an easy one is like as I'm sure everyone's seen, like Pheno and any Prism card is like, okay, cool. This obviously makes sense. So we try to let that be like the first sort of priority as to how we select. And then from there, it really is kind of comes down to just like what type of, are people actually creating content? Like, are you, still sort of regularly, whether it's putting out videos, whether it's articles, whether, whatever it might be, are you sort of like engaged and regularly making content? And then what's your, I mean, like, I hate, like, that's weird. We try to balance it. Like reach is obviously a consideration for all of this. Like we want people to see these things, especially, some of the cooler types of, or not, I shouldn't say cooler, but like maybe the more rare types of cards that go out, it's usually good to get more reach with those, as at the end of the day, preview season is still in part like marketing for the set, right? So that is certainly a consideration, but it's not like the be all end all. And we will definitely engage with creators that have smaller audiences if we think that they've been putting in the effort and we're enjoying the stuff that we're seeing from them. So it's like not a prerequisite to have like a certain amount of subscribers or something to get a preview card. There's pretty much no metric there. It's more we look back over the past so many months to see, what has someone been doing? What have they been putting out? A great example was like Blockout Party, I think, put out the Living Legend video for
Chain, I believe.
For Chain. Yeah, for Chain. Yeah. And it was like, that was just like a really well done video. Clearly a lot of time put into that. And got good reach. A lot of people saw it and great reactions from the community. People were like, oh, this is, this was good. And we were like sick, man. Like, we want to like have a preview like, so it's kind of, it is in part that. And I think the thing that people probably might not realize is that like there's a lot of content creators. There's always more content creators than there will be preview cards. So we do try to rotate them as best we can, like, looking back at old preview seasons, who got this and that. And then, as I said, try and match them with the set. But at the same time, it's like, we're never gonna be able to get eyes on every single piece of content that goes out there. And so like, we're almost constrained by the social media algorithms as well, and just what we see coming through the community. Obviously, the community plays a part in what makes it through to LSS, because if people are really enjoying something or there's positive feedback about something, we generally hear that. But yeah, it's also one of those things where you kind of just have to look at what you're creating, and if it's getting in front of, I mean, I try to subscribe to as many content creators as I can so I can like keep eyes on it, but I'm almost at sometimes letting, like, for YouTube especially, like letting the homepage and the algorithm dictate like what is showing itself as something that is being well received by the community. Usually, I mean, views is obviously a pretty easy metric to go off, but at the same time, that's complicated. I mean, even things like podcasts, right? They're really difficult to measure externally, because I don't know how many listens this is getting on any other platform. I can only see what it's getting on YouTube views. And so it is quite complicated. And sometimes it just comes down to like, anecdotally, what have we seen? And that might mean some people get missed on, unfortunately, at times, even if maybe they are technically deserving. It's just, and that's kind of just the kind of the reality of the game, right? If it doesn't get in front of someone's or our eyes, then it's hard for us to know that this content is out there, or whatever it may be. And saying that, though, we take feedback from the community, from the rest of the LSS team, who are pretty engaged. Like the developers and things will occasionally say like, oh, have you seen this person's content? We really enjoy this or something. And that's super helpful to me, because I'm like, cool, if they like it, then it must be pretty good. So Yeah, I feel like I've kind of rambled on about how how we select, but essentially it's yeah, does the first check off the box is like, does the card match the creator?
Mhm.
Cool. If it does, sweet. Sometimes there are a lot of creators that play the game as well. I was kind of talking about before. If they've had like really good performances, with especially with certain heroes, and it matches that card, it's like cool. Here's a great card that we can give to this person. Um, and yeah, and then we kind of just go down from there. There's certain like legacy creators that get a lot of I guess you could say get pretty regular spoilers, but they're also putting very regular content out there. So it kind of makes sense to keep giving them those spoilers. But at the same time, there's never really any guarantee. We kind of just have to keep trying to rotate. We want to get people involved, and it's off. I guess I guess you could almost say like perceived effort in a way as well. Sometimes it's something like if we see someone just going hard. I mean, perfect example actually. Frank and Blood. If you remember the like photoshopping himself into a chain photo every day until he like I don't know. I think he got up to like 179 or it was some ridiculous amount of days that he did it for. And I was like, heck, like this is too good. I mean, I don't even, I think he was making other content and things as well. But it was just like, here's a perfect example of like, okay, like we're going to give this guy a chain spoiler. Like it just makes sense. Given, yeah, given that amount of effort. Not to say that anyone else should go do that because I don't want to, I don't want anyone to be doing like,
Mhm.
um,
It's good the
try to
first time.
copycat that the first time's great, but don't try to copycat that tactic because otherwise it'll just be annoying.
Yeah.
But like yeah, I guess you just I don't know, man. Like I sometimes I say like you just have to try it's real cliche, just but like be yourself, be original, put out content that you think you'd like to see. And you know, it's kind of like social what is it? I forget the word, but you know, the proof will be in the results you get anyway through especially through social media. That's like the great aggregator, right? You kind of have to it's like perfect competition in terms of views and things, and you know you can get pissed off with the algorithm or whatever it is, but at the end of the day it's mostly optimizing for content and what people are watching. So yeah, that's just try make the best stuff, and we're keeping an eye on it. So yeah, I have a lot of people ask me what sort of content does LSS want to see, and it's kind of like, I mean, obviously anything that is relevant to what's happening in the game currently with new sets and stuff is always great. There's a lot like anytime people are playing the game in a way that looks really quality and shows off the gameplay and it's easy to follow, especially for newer players, you know, like and I mean you kind of touched on three floating. I think that's where three floating really shines. It's like
Mhm.
their gameplay is just so clean, so easy to follow, edited well, you know, it doesn't drag on or anything like that. And that's been why it's been great, you know, working with them because and you just see it through the growth they've had and the comments and everything. It's like a lot of people have come to Fab, watched their videos and gone, oh, this is how to play this hero and this is cool and everything like that. So yeah, there's examples all over the place of but just do what you're interested in. I really like the content that Gorganian Tome does. The some of the videos that he's made have been like astoundingly good quality. And it's just like, but that's a completely different side of the gameplay. He's talking about like the intricate dynamics and the narrative of how the games play out and what stories they tell and what this word, you know, going into like a deep dive on the history of like what this word means and things. And I'm like, I find that stuff super interesting. And so it's like, you know, here's another facet of the game. Like the game is so multi-dimensional and art and whatever. And it's like you can if you just find the thing that you like and you go in on that, if you want to make content for it, then like go for it. And usually the results will speak for themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you man, so you've said quite a bit. I think the first thing I want to say, Because I really like earlier that you were mentioning the average, like the views that you get on videos actually matters. I'm really glad that you said views for YouTube instead of subscribers, because I think the biggest mistake people
Mm,
make is they look at a subscriber count and go like, that's your audience. But the reality is, YouTube subscribers, because the algorithms got so good, it means basically nothing now. Like it means a little bit,
mm,
but it's your average views that really show you how big your audience is, because that's the amount of people
mm,
that on average are watching your stuff. Because like I mean, I've seen so many channels that'll have like 200,000 subscribers, but that was from like 5 years ago, and now their videos get like 3,000 views. It's like, well, your audience isn't
yeah.
500,000 anymore. And Three Floating has kind of the opposite. Like their audience is like they are right now the best performing and biggest Flesh and Blood YouTube channel, because if you look at all of their videos, they're like, I think their weakest one is their newest gameplay, which is like 4,500 views. But like, give it a few more weeks, and that'll be at the 5,000, 6,000, like between 5 and 6, because like all of
Mhm.
their stuff just continuously gets views, and they're doing the right thing. A little tip for anybody: if you really want to really expand your growth, if you hit on something that people enjoy, just keep doing the same thing over and over if you're able to. Three Floating obviously can. There's a game there is more of a show, if that makes sense. It's like it's a gameplay show the way that they do it. It's
Mm.
like you're there to see it every time. You know what the premise is. It's got the stakes of like who's gonna win. Like that's already built into it. And so it's just so perfect. And I'm honest to God, like even though arguably, kind of competition, I have my own YouTube channel. It's like I'd like to be at the top as well, which I am. Like I am one of the bigger creators. I think for Flesh and Blood as a whole, that channel being the biggest channel, and I think they're going to surpass everybody in subscriber count as well within like the next year, because their growth is just going to keep going up and up. I think that is the perfect channel to have at the top of Flesh and Blood, because, as you said, it is the most accessible thing for new players, shows them how to play the game, it shows the fun of the game, and it's, again, being more of like a show in a way. Like, it's just such a widely appealing thing. Like, my channel, for instance, I think is pretty widely appealing, but mostly it's people who like Flesh and Blood and who like YouTube, who are already on YouTube like pretty regularly. Whereas Three Floating, the amount of people I've seen on Twitter where it's like they just don't seem like the type of person who's like really on YouTube that much, but they do watch Three Floating. I even have friends who are like, they're like, yeah, I don't really watch much Flesh and Blood YouTube, but I like Three Floating, right? So it's like they're just so widely appealing to people that it's truly it's I think necessary for the game's growth for them to be like a really big channel that gets eyes and gets viewers, because that is like the number one channel that's going to bring people into the game and show them how to play and how fun it can be. And also I think set player expectations in a way where like their stuff is not, they're competitively minded people, but they're not like hyper competitive players where like that's their main focus. It's more on the, hey, we're gonna play well, but we're just gonna have fun with it. I mean, let's be real. There's games versions of Command Zone, and Command Zone is the biggest like Magic channel out there by views. Some of their stuff gets millions of views, so it's like
Mm.
that's basically where they are for Flesh and Blood. And I guess the next thing I wanted to, so you were talking about like like the algorithms and everything like that, and I guess this is kind of advice also to other YouTubers, and that is that when it comes to the algorithm, I know everybody says that like it's this magical thing. Truly, the algorithm just tracks how much human beings are actually watching your videos, are actually clicking them, how long they're watching them, are they clicking into other ones, and then it decides whether or not it even can show it to anybody else. And so, like, if your videos aren't picking up traction, a lot of people say it's the algorithm, but like a big thing is that your stuff just might not be that appealing. And I think one of the biggest pitfalls people fall into, and I remember you mentioning this because I know you talked about it on the Living Legend podcast ages ago. But I think the biggest pitfall that people, or maybe it was Chris Bewley, but I think it was you. I'm pretty sure it was you.
I don't
And
think I've been on the Living Legend podcast,
okay,
but
maybe it
I
was Chris
might.
Bewley.
But I've been on a couple others, but maybe it was Bewley. But
Maybe
sorry,
then, yeah,
carry
because
on.
it was a long time ago. Because it was a similar question of like, how do you get spoilers? But I think the biggest pitfall that people fall into, because they even mentioned, was thumbnails. Where like I've seen good content with good videos, but like the thumbnail is just not great, and so it's like nobody's really clicking on it, because like we are like we judge books by a cover. I know it's a statement not to, but when you're on YouTube, because you're also competing with not only all the Flesh and Blood content, but you're competing with the rest of YouTube. Like I don't just watch Flesh and Blood content, I watch a bunch of other stuff, and I don't really go to the subscriber page. I do for a little bit every day. I scroll through really quickly, but then I'm back to the homepage, and I'm just letting the algorithm feed me stuff it thinks I'll like, and I'll find the most interesting video. And so I do think that's one of the most sorely underrated things. And so if like you do want to get spoilers, you do want to get more views, like you do have to kind of look at everything in terms of Flesh and Blood, like or making videos, sorry, and not just like like if you film a good video, but your thumbnail is just like a shot from the video where like it's a really messy thumbnail, and it's like it's I don't know. I see that being a pitfall for a lot of people. But I think you hit on the nail on the head of like ultimately the best creators are going to rise to the top. I mean, I know everybody in Magic says like, oh, um, like if you look at Magic creators, there's like so many of them, but it's like there's really only in the probably tens and tens of thousands of people who make Magic content. You can probably only name like a couple dozen on the top of your head that are like actually doing well and like you actually know who they are. There's so many people that make stuff but just don't ever go anywhere. That's just kind of the way social media works. But yeah, like I don't know. I remember when I first started, my stuff was absolute trash. I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched some of my old stuff. It was turn a camera on and talk to it for 20 minutes and just ramble and put up a video. And I've realized pretty quickly, like, well, I mean, if people have called me the professor of fab, and I took huge inspiration from him because I recognize, like, listen, if I want to be a big creator in 5, 10 years still, like, still be here making stuff and I want to have an audience, like, I have to deliver quality. And I think that's probably the best mindset. I guess that's another thing I'll say is I do meet some people where it's like it's clear that spoilers is their like main goal, or like the money from making channel. It's like, listen, getting a spoiler is awesome. It feels great, but it does not sustain you for the months and months in between getting that spoiler of having to slog through making videos because sometimes it is not fun. You got to have like a different reason to do it. Like so for I would say Three Floating, their goal was to show how fun Flesh and Blood is. My goal of my channel was to try and make the game understandable to, I think I talked to you about this at Worlds, where like I really wanted to aim at the armory level players or even the more casual players and make the game more understandable to them. And I've made a few videos, my Flesh and Blood life total video, which was like breaking down the game into four, zones of life total and explaining like how to play in each of those areas. And even my recent one was that I released today was actually the powering down of Flesh and Blood. I'll see how it's doing after this. It was doing well earlier. And it's like, I want to try breaking the game down to make it more understandable for those who just haven't quite wrapped their heads around it yet. Because not everybody's as obsessed as I am and will sit for hours just thinking about the mechanics of the game and looking at like different card designs and everything to try and analyze it. But I think just finding a reason for your channel to exist. I think a great example is Riddler Man, who very excited. You guys gave him a spoiler for the season. He's over the moon about it. And his goal was to just build his own little community within the game. He's like, I'm not trying to be the biggest YouTuber or anything, but I just want to stream every day and build a community and have a place for people like me. And he's done a pretty good job of that. His channel's done decently well actually for the he doesn't really, and he'll even say himself, he doesn't spend a lot of time editing or really bothering with thumbnails even, but his consistency has gotten him exactly what he wanted. And it's not the biggest audience, but it's a pretty in tune hardcore audience that he has. He gets pretty regular people showing up to his streams and that. So
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the biggest thing is just like it is pretty. It's pretty immediately obvious to tell like kind of what someone's intentions are with their content and things like that. So, yeah, I it is that like YouTube and content and social media and stuff. It's a very humbling thing to get into, right? Like, and I mean even like because even with the Flesh and Blood channel, right? Like we're putting videos on sort of seasonally, really. That's something we'll look to increase as we go. But yeah, even just experimenting with different things through there, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Like obviously with trying to make the quality as good as we can. But there's always constraints and things like that. But yeah, it is one of those things where you just have to look at what's working and just kind of assess it objectively. But yeah, authenticity. YouTube's a weird thing in itself, man. I could go on a whole like yarn just about YouTube. Like I've even seen like videos about it now. Like there's like the spectrum of like there's like YouTube content that is like super YouTube optimized, like Mr. Beast, right? Like being like the prime example of like that. And then there's like this weird like authenticity thing that's coming through where there's a bunch of people that are just not doing the thumbnails, not doing the the high editing and all that sort of stuff, but just doing their authentic, whatever their mission is that they're on and just sort of broadcasting that out.
mm-hmm.
And that's also working out. And so it's like, it's possible to go down the authenticity route I guess, and not to say that YouTube optimized stuff isn't authentic, but like, that being like, there's just two sort of different spectrums, and it's interesting that both are seemingly still viable methods to, uh, to grow an audience if that's what your goal is. So yeah, it's interesting, man. It's a fun game. But yeah, it's cool. And I think one of the things I also want to touch on, which is like something that I'm trying to figure out how to get better at doing as well. And for me, a kind of time is a constraint, is seeing content that's like not on social media, right? Like articles, and because that's all like people pour a lot of time and effort into that stuff. And I guess it's just one of those things where it can be, with the limited time in the day that I have to be scrolling through and looking at flesh and blood content and stuff like that. Sometimes it unless you know a place to go already, it can be kind of difficult to find those things, those articles or wherever they may be. Which is why I think, maybe just visibility is something you always have to consider. As a creator, if you're not putting your blog or whatever it is in a place that people can see it, then you kind of, it's going to be hard to expect that we're going to be able to see it. So yeah, if you're a creator that's not in the video side of things or whatever it is, and you want to get noticed, you maybe consider getting the socials out there. Even if it's just posting your blogs on Twitter or Facebook or whatever platform you want to use, just to make yourself known and visible. It will probably help. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess, on that front.
Yeah, and I one thing I guess I'll add to that. Well, first off, there's a little addendum. When I was talking about thumbnails, I should have said thumbnails and titles, because like you said, sometimes people don't put much effort, but usually they're accompanied with a title that's like, it grips you, right? The title is like, people
For
see
sure.
it, they'll read it and be like, oh, that's something relatable to me, and I'll click it, especially for the authentic content. Like there's so much about there where it's like it's like millions of views. It's just like a video. The thumbnail's just like this really old guy, and it's like just advice from an old man. And it's just like, that's kind of
Yeah, I've seen that one.
yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I've seen it come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's like,
I have watched it, and it's actually a pretty good video. And that's the thing, is like, so there is a way around it. But I think if you're doing, if like your video is about gameplay for Flesh and Blood, like it's probably a good idea to make like a template for your thumbnails. Like 3 Floating has their template where they got the, usually the 2 people playing and the heroes behind them and their logo in the middle. Just keep it simple. You don't have to do too much, but like it's still got to look somewhat decent. If it's a really bad looking thumbnail, like if you're like covering I've seen people put titles where it's covering like the thing that they're showing in the video, and it's like, well, you're literally covering the eye-catching icon. Like they'll have like a Flesh and Blood card and it's like half covered, and it's like, well, I can't even see what it, like, it just doesn't work right. But and
there's a minimum production standard that you need for sure. For in most cases, right? Like especially for Flesh and Blood sort of content, it typically helps. It's like, yeah, there's certainly a minimum production level. Just quality, just even just to make it aesthetically nice to watch. Like, it can be kind of hard to get through. Like, I don't know. I kind of look at it like, I almost use myself as a sort of indicator of an audience, right? Because like, I love Flesh and Blood, I love watching gameplay, but I'm not gonna sit down and watch just some random matchup of people that I don't know and heroes that it's like, okay, like this is a game of people playing fab, but like if it's just like a raw game and there's no stakes necessarily, like nothing's been introduced to like give me a reason for like why this game matters. It's just like some people playing against each other. I'm like, like, am I gonna spend the time to watch this? Like when there's a million other Flesh and Blood games, I could go watch a replay of the Pro Tour or something. Like, there's like there's so many options. It's like you kind of need a reason to want to watch, especially like gameplay wise, right? That's one of the, because that is something that is, imagine a new player or something. Like there's so much complexity that is, and so much knowledge, like things you need to know before you can even start watching a Flesh and Blood game for it to make sense or be entertaining. I remember when I first started, I was like trying to watch gameplay, and I barely, like, I came on just before Tales of Aria, and people were playing Tales of Aria stuff, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening. like what is fuse, like what is, like, like it was like so beyond my knowledge. And so many cards, even things that, like, it's one of that's, I think, the most difficult thing with Flesh and Blood, and I think with TCGs in general, right, is it's not immediately obvious what's happening. And that's like a difficult thing that's a pretty big hurdle, right? If someone watches Fortnite or like any video game, you can tell what's going on because it's just whatever's happening in front of the screen. You might not know the intricacies of like where they're at, or I don't know what, like, life total or people they're versing or whatever. But you can see like they're just doing stuff, like, because it's like on a screen in front of you. Like, it's kind of, you can just watch it really absentmindedly and get an idea of what's happening. You can't do that with trading card games, right? Like, there's, even at any point in the game, there's so much context. Like, even if you start a game like halfway through, you're missing so much information of like what has already been, and the rest of it, and just knowing the cards and everything. It's one of the big challenges that I'm really thinking hard about right now when it comes to just streaming gameplay. It's like, how do we make this more accessible for your average viewer that might not know these cards or this matchup or all the rest of it without, because there's, I mean, how many cards are there in Flesh and Blood now, right? Like, it's if you're not like a super engaged competitive player, you're probably not going to know what the deck list is or what cards they're likely to be playing. I mean, even myself, as someone who like works in Flesh and Blood, sometimes I watch some matchups and I'm like, I have no idea what this person is probably playing. Like, and it's, or like, you'll have a rough idea, but like my knowledge on illusionist cards is pretty bad, to be honest. Like, not gonna lie. Just knowing like what people will play in different matchups and things, because like I'm not like a competitive player, right? Like, I care about the competitive side of things, and I love watching like the competitive gameplay and things, but I need the commentators to tell me what to do, or like what's happening, because I wouldn't know myself, right? So it's just like, yeah, trying to make that's another thing, which I guess you have to. It can be very easy for people to upload something, right, or put something out there that they think it might be really entertaining to you, and you might think this is great, but that's because you know what it is. Like, you know what's happening. You're already connected to the content, and I mean, you've made it yourself, or whatever it is. You have to like take a step back and like put yourself in like the shoes of a complete stranger that might have any level of knowledge, looking in at this, and then say like, oh, is this going to be entertaining to this person that's played in like 2 armories and wants to figure out more about the game, or for this, so it's just like, you always kind of have to be in that mindset of yeah, optimizing or making sure that what you're putting out there is going to be appealing to a wide range of people.
Yeah, I one of the things that and again, like when I was making content back in the day, there were so few creators that you could just turn on a camera, talk about the game, and people would watch, because there just wasn't that much to watch. Nowadays, there is a ton of content to watch, and the quality, like the standard of quality has, and I'm partly to blame for this. You have channels like my own, 3 Floating, We Make Best, I think are good examples, Blockout Party, Gorgonian Tome, even DM Armada. Like, he went from just, turning on the camera in the, like, he had a nice setup on it, but now he's even gone in and he's doing a lot more editing and a lot more effects and everything, and trying to like really work at his intros and that. And so the I guess expectation of quality for content has risen a lot higher than it used to be in the early days. And it's getting, I think, ever closer, slowly but surely, to kind of the expectation. Because like, if you think about Magic content, the standard of quality for that content now, especially thanks to people like Termanzum and the Professor, is very high. Like, it's very hard to just turn on your camera, ramble for 20 minutes, and get anybody to click anymore, unless you're somebody really, really engaging, like Rudy from Alpha Investments. Like, he's like a rare case of somebody who can just go off for 40 minutes and have people listen to him, and actually engage with what he's saying. But so I definitely think that's very important. But I will say to anybody who is out there, if you make something good, especially if you put it out on like somewhere like Twitter or whatever, I'll just tell you now, people in this community love it when there is something breakout that's really good. Like, again, you talked about Mike from Blockout Party, but Gorgonian Tome, when he made his Flesh and Blood as a fighting game video, that thing blew up within the community. People absolutely loved it. And I've noticed that, like, if you somebody who's been around for a while and you're known for quality, there's not as much of a hubbub. You'll get like a handful of comments being like, that was really good. Like people support it. But if you're like a new face on the scene, everybody just goes nuts. They will like full send support. You'll get this wave of people behind you, and you can start to build an audience off of that. But you like, again, it's like it's got to be really good. Like at the end of the day, people want to watch and engage with, even on social media, even when you look at cosplayers. People gravitate towards the best ones, and that's going to be a handful of them. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful still. Just maybe your expectations are like, okay, here's like the upper echelons of creators, and I'm going to be on like that next level kind of thing, where it's like I understand my quality is maybe not as good. Like there's so many magic YouTubers I can think of. It's like you got like Professor and Command Zone and a few others at the top, and then you have like the internet historian who's got like 50,000 subscribers, which is still very respectable, but it's like so far from the almost million that the Professor's got, right? So it's kind of a I guess like a tiered system. But I definitely think that just trying to make the best stuff that you possibly can and engaging people, and if something's not working, like change it up, try something new, and try to bring a lot of that enthusiasm to Flesh and Blood, because people can see that through the videos. If you're just doing it, phoning it in, just trying to get views, people can tell, like if you're not really providing the value in the videos.
For sure, yeah. And don't get disheartened. Like you're not gonna be a superstar overnight. Like
No.
it's yeah. It takes I think that's the big misconception, because you always hear, I mean, maybe not in Flesh and Blood, but just on social media in general, there's all these like overnight sensations, right? That just kind of like blow up out of nowhere and things. But like half the time, these people have been making content for years and years, and no one realizes it until they hit that like that point where they do sort of blow up, and it's just, you just got to hone your craft. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, and you will see growth when things start working out. I mean, I look at Tales of Wraith, Alex from Germany. I've watched his stuff change quite. He's been kind of changing up his channel and experimenting with what he wants to do. And recently, I think he's really like locked on to some good stuff. The way that he's making his videos, the even the thumbnails, the consistency with the graphics and things, like they're, and it's shown, and he's put it out there, and it's shown, his growth has reflected that. So sometimes it just takes, just playing around and figuring out what people like, and
Mhm.
and go from there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think an important thing to remember too as a creator, and this is my philosophy, is that it's easy to, especially once you get an audience, it's really easy to fall into this almost like it's almost you build the ego because you get people like patting you on the back and that, so you start to just naturally you see those numbers go up. It feels good, but the ego can creep up on you. And I see some people who it's clear like their expectation is to get something from the audience, and like I understand if you want to do it as a living or you want to try to make some extra money on the side, but at the end of the day, like if you're making content, you serve the audience. Like you're the entertainer, and you have to provide value to the audience if you want anything back. And so I think that's really important. Is like when you're making your videos or anything really. I'm just saying videos because that's what I do. I'm a YouTuber, so that's my passion.
Mm.
But it's like anytime I'm making them, my thought is like, how is the audience going to respond to this? Is this entertaining for the audience? Like I script my stuff because I know I ramble and I'd rather be coherent. But even when I'm editing, I will cut out like an extra minute or two out of the final video after I'm done like scripting and filming and that, because I'm just like, you know what, this little part doesn't need to be in here. Or like like when I did my Yu-Gi-Oh versus Fab video, there was like a whole almost 3-minute tangent where I was explaining James White's. I did some research and found out about Hobbyco, which is a company he did before, how he used to run his company used to run the Yu-Gi-Oh national championships for New Zealand for at least from 2011 to 2016, I believe. I don't know if his company stopped then or after, but it was like him, and he was expressing about some kid playing Yu-Gi-Oh. It was like Yu-Gi-Oh is great because it lets people get together in person and make friends and build connections. So like he very much cared about that still. But then I realized I spent like 3 minutes on this tangent, not even getting to the actual point of the video, which was comparing Flesh and Blood and Yu-Gi-Oh and showing the similarities and differences. And I was like, as interesting as this was to me, and I'm sure other people would find it interesting, most people are going to click on and within the first minute be like, you're not even at the point of the video yet. You're not even talking about what I clicked here for. And they're just going to click off. And I think that's like
Mm.
a big thing, is trying to put yourself in the shoes of the audience and kind of understand that like truth is most people don't. I'm just gonna say it. Most people don't really care about you when they're watching your stuff. They just want to be entertained. Like they just want to watch a good video. So like if you're gonna go off about yourself a lot in your videos, that could also put people off because 9 times out of 10 they just want the actual like content itself. But if you could provide that, then you build that core audience up that really likes you and will stick around for any video, even if it's kind of bad. Because like we all put out stinkers. I've been doing this for holy shit, almost 3 years now. I'm like a few months away from 3 years. That's crazy. I think it's April, beginning of April. But man, I didn't start getting like good at making videos till maybe like a year ago at the earliest. And like I'm still honing my craft and getting better and better. Like it is a very long process. It is a marathon, not a sprint. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, congrats, bro, for for sticking at it and actually, and getting to where you are now. Because yeah, I like your content. I mean, that's
Appreciate that.
that like it's good to watch. I even if I think about it, yeah, when you did those like those Bloodstack upgrade videos and things like that, like some of that content is it might not seem immediately like it's not like the big flashy like this is gonna get the views, but like that's evergreen content that is gonna people just keep watching that. You search up,
Mhm.
like as a new player, you wanna try Hero on or something like that, and you get a like where do you start? You start with a blitz stick, right? If there is a blitz stick available. And what do you want to do after that? You want to try upgrade it. I remember going through the process of like building my first blitz stick with Bravo. And I had no idea where to start, but I also worked for LSS, so I had like a bunch of devs that could be like, oh, just here's like some cards you should probably go get and things. And yeah, that was a real because it was such a daunting thing, to be honest. Weirdly, like thinking about getting a blitz, like for me, going to a game store and buying cards, like I didn't even know how to do it. Like I was, I didn't realize that they kept all these single cards like on hand like that. It just was such a new process to me when I was first starting, and I remember getting my first like crippling crushes and things and being so stoked and I couldn't wait to put them in my deck and like slowly like just accumulating the cards that I needed. And then because we would play like Blitz at lunchtimes and things like that.
Mhm.
And that process is so fun. I almost wish I could like go. I feel like I'm in this like privileged spot. I got all these singles and stuff, and I'm just like I almost wish I could go back to that like period of time where I was like finding the cards that I needed, like searching around for the local game stores that had them. And then going in and just like getting them and putting them in the deck. It's like nice. I'm like building it now. It's like getting more close to complete. And that was fun, man. That made me feel like I find like this is kind of one of the things where I guess that's what games kind of do in general, but I found that this one, like this in particular, is like once you when you're a kid, right? Like you don't like everything's kind of fun. You're just doing stuff because it's fun. Like you don't have responsibilities. You don't have um like nothing. I mean, yeah, people's circumstances are different, but like I wasn't really stressed about anything, right? Like because it's like, what do you have to be stressed about? You're a kid. And then you get old and you get it and you do the whole schooling and the rest of it, and you get into a job, and suddenly I can see how, especially if you're working a lot or whatever you have, it's like you can get into that almost like trap of like mundanity where it's like, you kind of almost feel it's like where it doesn't feel like there's anything to look forward to if you don't, if you don't put yourself in situations where that happens. And so things like that was like such a highlight of my week where I was like, yo, like it was like a little side mission I was on, like getting my deck ready. And I just remember it feeling so fun. And I felt kind of like a kid, like where
Mhm.
I was like, couldn't wait till I like left the office like half an hour earlier so I could like run down to the game store and get my cards before like before I had to go off to whatever I was doing. And it was just like things like that where like I don't know, that was just buying the cards and just doing that was like entertaining for me. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of I can see where collectors. I'm not a collector at all, but I can see where like the collection aspect of Flesh and Blood can come into it, especially because the cards are actually sick. They
Oh yeah.
look cool. And I think for me, coming from someone that wasn't into TCGs before, I don't have any like well, actually, no, I have a huge bias. I work for the company, but like, I was gonna say I don't have any biases in terms of like the aesthetics of the card, but I really truly think that Flesh and Blood has the best looking cards out of all the TCGs, like by far and away, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But and that's just, yeah. I mean, that's me trying to be objective. Obviously, like you can't really compare like Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess, and Fab because they're completely different art styles. But like for my personal preferences and just like art that to me seems more like there seems to be a lot of depth to Flesh and Blood art, and I think that's a huge credit. Oh, sick.
Yeah,
That's
well, I
nice.
was gonna say, I think the thing that does it for me for Fab is that every aspect. I remember at Worlds, I met MJ, who's the one she does she designed all the borders, and I believe she's the art director, or one of the art directors. And she, like one of the things I really commended the game on is that like every other game is just like they don't really put that much, aesthetically pleasing, I guess, attention into the borders. But this game, like if you've ever looked at, I don't have any here, but if you've ever looked at the Warrior border, like or the Solanium border, sorry, because it's based on the regions, that beautiful gold kind of like engraved look. It's so beautiful. And they really went out of their way to make everything on Flesh and Blood cards look really good. Now, in terms of art, there were, Welcome to Wraith had a couple stinkers. Nimblism and Slogism are kind of, you're looking at them like, what even is this? And then Demolition Crew is hilarious. Honestly, I love Demolition Crew. I unironically love that art. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm glad you said. I've also thought about making a video like this because honestly, as somebody who owns so much Flesh and Blood now, and I can just trade or buy like whatever I want when I need it, it honestly takes so much of the fun away. Like I remember when I first was getting into Magic and couldn't, and like when I barely spent any money. I bought like an event deck, and then when I bought my first like $10 of upgrades, oh my god, I was so hyped. It was so exciting to buy those upgrades. Same with Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, and even when I started to get more into it, it was really exciting. Flesh and Blood was the exact same. You buy your deck, you look up some Majestics, and you're like, okay, I bought this like Blitz Precon or something. It's like, ooh, what are a few upgrades? And that's actually what I try to hit with the Blitz upgrades. Is like, listen, I want to give you budget upgrades so you don't, because you're gonna get into the game, try a hero, and I think a lot of the times people are gonna try a hero, enjoy it for a little while, but then find something else later that they like even more. That was me. I got in with Bravo, realized like I don't hate Guardian, but it's not my favorite strategy. I ended up really liking Dorinthia more, so it's like I had both decks, but I really got into Dorinthia. So it's like I don't want people to lose their ass on the deck, but also I wanted to give like first off, I definitely want to include Majestics because those just feel cool. It doesn't matter if they are like the most powerful upgrade or not. The adding in a specialization Majestic just feels really really cool no matter what hero you're doing. And then on top of that, I wanted to leave room for people to have fun with the deck and take it off in any direction that they want. And kind of going back to the making content, like in terms of other people, like the thing is, some of those upgrade videos only got like, 2 to 3 thousand views, which is pretty good, like in the long term, and they still trickle in views here and there. But it's not like any of them really took off and was like, this is my best performing video. However, for me, they served a purpose to new players where it's like if each one gets, let's say, 3,000 views, it's like, well, each one just helped out, even if we cut that down to even 1,000, right? Because like, you're going to have some overlap between it. But you could say like, between the 12 I did, the 6 for Outsiders and the 6 for History Pack, like even if it's 1,000 each, that's 12,000 people that I just helped like get into the game at a easier level. That's a lot of people when you really think about it, right? And so like
Yeah.
having videos that serve a purpose, even if they're not like necessarily the most viewed videos or like the most like lauded videos, I think doing stuff for a purpose. This is where I took a lot of inspiration again from the professor, because I remember being a broke college student, watching his content and seeing some of his budget decks or seeing his stuff of Commoner, or watching him like talk about, how to enjoy the game on a budget and stuff like that, or upgrading things. And just, I just took a lot of inspiration from that. I'm like, I want to bring that to this game because I think, I've been playing card games since I was like 11, so longer than half my life now. I'm 28 in literally 10 days from now. So, it's like I'm getting up there, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of younger people who are going to have that, just they're gonna be like me. When I was 16, when I really fell in love with TCGs, I already played Yu-Gi-Oh and some Pokemon, mostly Yu-Gi-Oh, but when I fell in love with card games was when I opened my first Magic the Gathering event deck. It was the Rot from Within, and I opened up the thing and I saw the Glistener Elf, and the art on that card immediately pulled me into the world. Like it was like I just like, now mind you, I was young, so like everything, when you listen to music when you're 14, it's like the most deep music you've ever heard in your life. But it gripped me. It was like, I am into this. Like this just something pulled me in. And Flesh and Blood did the same thing, although not as like, intense of a feeling. But again, I was in my 20s when I found Flesh and Blood rather than, 17 years old. But obviously I absolutely love this game. That's not even a question. However, I just hope to kind of facilitate that feeling for a lot of younger people. Like if an 18-year-old or even like a 16-year-old like comes across one of my videos when he's kind of, like he's heard of Flesh and Blood, his friends play it maybe, so he searches it up and he's just like, or he's played like Yu-Gi-Oh but wants to play something else and he searches up Flesh and Blood and then he watches one of my videos and goes like, this looks pretty good. Like that's some good stuff. And then ends up going buying that product. And if I can bring that experience where they open up the deck and they just go like, oh, holy shit, I like this. Like right from the start, they're just like, oh, no, I like this a lot. Just from the aesthetics alone. If I can bring that to somebody and help facilitate the moments the way that the professor did for me, like that's a job well done. Doesn't matter if I'm the biggest or smallest or whoever. It doesn't really matter about the views. It's like, if I can bring that to people, that's a, a more purposeful goal, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It's and to be honest, I look and that's something like, people are like, oh, you want to, what can I do to get a spell? Like stuff. Purposeful content like that is obviously very much appreciated. From from LSS standpoint for the reasons you mentioned. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want more people to get into the game and enjoy it and have those moments that you're talking about. And yeah, any content that helps facilitate that, it just it's all good. So yeah, no, it's TCGs are fun. It's I've come in from it's been such a wild ride. Like it's been has it been when did I start? 2020 July 2021. So it's been like 2 and a bit years now. And coming from like didn't even really know this existed. Like I'd heard of Magic the Gathering. I didn't know what Magic the Gathering was. Like I like getting thrown into the deep end. It's been such a wild like trip of just understanding like there's so many nuances to it and everything like that. But yeah, it just getting into this has been, I don't know, it's been really fun, like weirdly profound at times where I'm just like, wow, like and I think that's kind of the cool thing, like when people, because it's pretty hard for me to explain to my like grandma like what I do for a job, but I'm so compared to the trajectory that I was kind of like on when I was at university to what I'm doing now, I'm so much more stoked to be in this position, because it's like one of those things where you being a part of a game that is like kind of touching people like this in areas that it's not like I think you can find meaning in anything, right? And whatever job you do, whatever hobbies you have, anything like that. If you look at things through a through the right sort of perspective, you can find the meaning in what you do. But that doesn't mean that everything is always fun, right? And I mean, even what I do at times is sometimes I'm like, but knowing that what I'm contributing to is like helping to, just give people more enjoyment and like, being a part, whether it's just being a part of the community itself. The amount of people that I've talked to that are like just in it for the community, like they play the game, but they're not competitive at all. Like they're really just in it for their friends and things is like really, really cool to see. I mean, that's certainly like a huge factor of what Flesh and Blood's all about. But yeah, being able to like see that and see how the game has helped people is like, and it's cool. I feel very privileged to be a part of it, and yeah, it's a wild thing to have gotten into, to be honest. But yeah,
it definitely sounds like that. So am I hearing that James White is an awful boss and he just cracks the whip and runs you all into the ground, and after you guys make him, profit after profit after profit year over year, he just lays off like 12,000 or 100 of you all at once?
Yeah. That's man, it's pretty rough, but nah. Wait, James is cool.
Oh yeah.
I like it's been he's like this. He's like that kind of, as you see him in the community, is also as he's like as a boss. Like he's straight up just will come and he'll just like talk to you. Like it's not like I feel like in a lot of companies the CEO or whatever doesn't even like really interact with people at certain like doing different jobs and things. And like sometimes understandably so, they got a lot of stuff on their plate. And I know James has so much on his plate. So the fact that he still makes the effort to just like see what people are up to and get like feedback from everyone is really cool. And like, you see him when he goes to events and stuff, he'll talk to anyone, like he'll stand there and meet the community. So yeah, it's good. I think the culture at LSS is sweet. We actually just got a new office as well, which is cool. It's a massive upgrade to the dingy little thing that we were in before. So it's exciting. This year's been like a huge scaling year, to be honest, where it's like just really resourcing up to be able to deliver the best kind of experience for the fans, and just whether that be the content we make, whether that be the marketing, the product and everything, like just having a proper dedicated space for what we're trying to do now is really going to make things a lot smoother, hopefully. So yeah, I feel like I always say this, but I really do feel like the best is yet to come with where we're at. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we've been around for 4 years. Next year's going to be our 5th year, and I'm excited for that. Like the 5-year mark is apparently a big one. When I was an account manager, I called up the store. I was like basically cold calling stores to see if they were like wanted to get Flesh and Blood, basically, and trying to introduce it to them. And I remember this one store owner I spoke to was like, call me when you get to 5 years. Like, I've been burned by too many TCGs. Like, he's like, when you guys get to 5 years, I'll consider you. But until then, like, don't even talk to me. So, and I'm just like, man, I've got that in a CRM somewhere. I'm going to have to go dig it up, and I'm going to call that dude when we hit 5 years. I'm going to be like, hey, bro, it's me.
Do it.
Because yeah, it's been cool. Like, yeah. And I think that's the interesting thing about the TCG world is, and talking to stores and stuff. Cause I was right in the thick of the Monarch prices and stuff, like basically as soon as I joined. And yeah, it's like the local game store model and how it works can, there certainly is risk to it. And people do get burned, and so people are very wary to bring on new games, and that's why I think that's contributed to why the big three have got such a like hold over game stores, because they're like, regardless of how sets do and things like that, they've been around for 30 years, right? Like, they're established enough that they know they could surely move the product in some way or another. It's kind of like, and that's not always the case for some games. So it's certainly been an uphill battle, just even getting like even on the store level, getting people into Flesh and Blood. And that was actually that was a big driver of why I wanted to get into the marketing side of things, because I was like, I think I can contribute more to growing the game by trying to level up our marketing at a player level. To just get more people asking about the game when they come into the stores. Yeah, that's kind of the goal of what I'm up to now. But yeah, it's been a fun journey. A lot of learning. I barely knew how to use a camera when I first started. So,
you've come
even
a long
just
way.
things like that. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
I was gonna say, because you've done.
but
I think I like I said earlier, I don't think there's anybody that's arguing that you've done an excellent job with the marketing, and because I know, again, I knew that was something that some people did criticize LSS for, and I'll agree. Like, the marketing for a while, it wasn't the strongest or as strong as it could be. But as you said, like, you're working with a really small team. There's like a million things to deal with in terms of a card game. Like, it's a living ecosystem. It's a constantly moving machine that has to keep going. So it's not easy to run it all, and it's really cool to see, though, like, as you guys are expanding, as you've got got the new HQ, obviously you're very passionate about your job. It's very obvious that the marketing is only going to keep ramping up. And I think it also just goes to show too that when a company really does care about what it makes, sometimes all it takes from the player base is a little bit of patience. It's like, I'm sure you guys know a lot of the errors, or like a lot of the issues you still have, a lot of the growing pains, a lot of the things you need to improve at. It's just a matter of time, energy, resources, and, well, I mean, mostly I think just time. Like, some things just take a while to get under
Mm.
ramps and going, and especially as the company expands, it's going to take a little bit longer for some other things, or like for stuff to go through the chain line. But you guys are still, I think, small enough that that's not really an issue. um it's pretty easy to communicate within a,
Yeah.
a smaller team. So, not that I really know what that's like. I mean, I work for a really small company. There's like 11 employees total. So it's, you just like, I literally just walk into my boss's office when I need to talk to him. He's like 10 feet away from where I'm working. So,
Yeah.
no, it's really good to hear though that everything is in on the up and up, and it seems like next year is going to be a hell of a year. I mean, we're getting heavy hitters. I think we're starting off with a heavy hitting set, as they might say. You guys are clearly very passionate about it, and I think it almost feels like a kind of a return to the basics, like a return to Welcome to Wraith, where the three classes that are represented are three of the most, they're very beloved classes, but they're also three of the more simple classes for people to pick up and play, versus like,
Mm.
like when you look at a set like, well, even the last few, like Outsiders, Dusk Till Dawn, Bright Lights, that um, they're a little more complicated in terms of the mechanics and everything that you can do. Let's not even talk about Tales of Aria, in terms of complexity. But, Heavy Hitters looks like it's going to just be like, you read the card, it immediately explains what it's doing, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun. But there's still clearly a lot of power there. So I'm personally excited for what you guys have coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Heavy Hitters is gonna be sick. I'm very much looking forward to that set. It's kind of it's like, especially for sealed, like, yeah, for sealed and draft and things. It's quite fun. I feel like Bright Lights is really good, but it's obviously quite complex, and just items and managing that and instant speed things are all pretty difficult for a newcomer, whereas Heavy Hitters is certainly not on that level of complexity. But you can do a lot of fun stuff. And I think that's it. It really, it's like, I think the great thing. I'm really impressed at how well they managed to tie in the set design and the narrative of the set. Like Bright Lights being a high tech, you know, like sort of futuristic world. Like, you're going to expect some complexity just in the game design itself, because it's kind of about that. Whereas Heavy Hitters is really like, like we're fighting. Like, this is an arena, we're fighting. It's like back to basics. Like, we're wagering. We're betting on things. Like, yeah, it's and some heroes, actually, by the time this comes out, some heroes will be revealed as well.
Oh, heck yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna be, you'll get to see what your card actually does. And yeah, it's like it's gonna be fun. I personally, I really like that style of gameplay. Like, I just love like Welcome to Wraith Sealed and things. I remember
Mhm.
playing that and just having a blast. Like, yeah. And so I think Heavy Hitters will. I think it will almost be comparable to Outsiders, to be honest. If you look
Mhm.
at like the tokens, especially, and different things. Like, obviously a difference in terms of how the tokens function, but in the same vein of, like, you're they're kind of they're kind of things.
Mhm.
And yeah, no, it's good. I always have to check myself, because otherwise I'll end up like spoiling something accidentally. Because yeah. So, but no, it will be it's definitely one that I'm looking forward to. There's some cool characters that I'm wanting to build decks for, and everything as well. So yeah,
Well,
it's,
that's what it's all
yeah,
about, right? You got to get people
I'm
hyped
looking
to.
forward to playing.
Yeah, you got to get people hyped to build that new hero or build that new deck. So I guess maybe we should, because we've been going for about an hour and a half. So maybe before you do end up accidentally spoiling something, because I mean, I would love to hear it, but and I would edit it out for the public, but I don't think you even need to spoil it to me just yet. Let me experience it the same as everybody else, except for my spoiler card. I get to see that early. But I guess, is there anything else that you kind of want to add in at the end here for anybody, or do you think we've basically covered everything you've kind of wanted to say?
I think we've probably covered most of it. Yeah, it's kind of. I feel like I just will. It's almost like the whole cliche thing, right? But I think we touched on it earlier. But it's really like if you're a content creator, if you're listening to this, which I assume usually that's kind of what happens when I talk about stuff because of my position and everything. But like, just yeah, I think really like just let the passion drive you. If that's why you're making content, like don't yeah, just do what you think is cool. And if you're genuine about it and you love it and you love the game and you love the community, then like people will respond. Will certainly respond. You know, we just want everyone to kind of just have fun with it. Again, and I think it's cool. Heavy Hitters is a fun set, so we're really kind of reinforcing the whole fun side of things with this. But yeah, don't like. I guess it depends what you like. But me personally, I don't get too like deep or hung up about cards and mechanics and things like that. It's more for me. It's more and that's because I'm not a competitive player, right? Like I want to play good and I try to win, obviously, when I do play. But it's more about I really like the experiential side of Fab. Like I just like trying to do cool stuff. And most of the time I lose because of it. And my boss even sent me this article which was titled like "The Danger of Trying to Do Cool Stuff" or something. And I think it was like a old like Magic article or something. But yeah, I was like putting pummels in my Katsu deck and stuff just to try like catch people out, and it just wasn't consistent at all. But yeah, like that's I don't know. I just encourage people to have fun with it and try like if there's a hero you resonate with, like it has been I think well documented and proven with results that like hero mastery is a huge like will probably get you further than okay, I don't know. This is a big I think hero mastery is actually something where blood, just knowing how a hero works and like mastering that hero as opposed to just jump between them. And I think that's something that I like about Fab is that it kind of it embodies that like becoming the hero type of thing, and that's something I think I would just encourage more people to kind of look into. Like maybe don't look at it so objectively. Like just think about it. Like what one do I resonate with? Who do I like? And sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Like you might not even think. Sometimes you just like hero for no reason. Like you can't even really explain it, but there's just something about it. And yeah, I don't know. Just have fun with it. There's so much to explore with Fab.
I have to push back a little bit. It's very obvious for me as to why I like this hero. It's almost like it's the most gorgeous hero and the most gorgeous cards in the game. I've even got
Yeah.
my own copy of the new Luminaris that I made up.
Nice.
So I can try it. And man, yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I do think people do think like, oh, this game is. It's so different than a game like Magic. And I think that's something that a lot of people have to contend with when they come over is like, listen, in Magic, everything basically plays the same. It's about like the most powerful deck is typically like how do these cards interact in the most powerful way. There is differences in playstyle and that, but Flesh and Blood is like your playstyle. Think of it more like you're playing Smash Brothers. Like if you master a character, that's way better. Like sure, there are characters who are better than others. I think we all know that there are certain heroes that are just objectively more powerful than others. But if somebody masters a character that is like a lower tier or a hero, and they go up against somebody who's only decent at the top tier one, like that bridge will be gapped. Like the gap will be bridged. Like you will bring it in line, and you could even be better. I mean, we saw Mansant almost beat Michael Hamilton. And I think wasn't it the Realm Rumble? I think it was, and he was playing Levia, and it was only like that last turn where he got a little. Did he win? I thought he lost. I think maybe he won. Maybe he did win that game.
I feel like I think he did win. Yeah,
Oh, maybe
I'm
he
pretty
won
sure he
that,
beat
and then
Michael
I think
Michelson.
he lost in the semifinals. I think it was, or the
Yeah, yeah.
or the quarterfinals. I think he placed in the top 4. Maybe, yeah, maybe he did win that one. I can't remember because I remember there was like the last game he played, he got a little unlucky at the very end and just couldn't quite get there. Which I mean, which happens, but that just goes to show like when you
Mm.
master a hero. Even though Levi is like the meme hero, like you can still do incredibly well. And I think, yeah, I do think that people, and I mean, although there is something to be said about like a meta not fitting for you at the current time. Like if you play current Prism and Dromai is really popular, like you're just gonna have bad time. That's like your one matchup that's pretty rough. So if you can dodge Dromais, you're good. But if you can't, then you might have a bad time. But even then, I think it's one of those matchups that isn't quite figured out as much as we could. You could maybe bring those numbers, percentage chance of winning a bit closer. But yeah, I do agree with you. Hero mastery is definitely a thing, and I think it's very underappreciated in this game. But anyways, I think maybe we'll call it there. Just so before we ramble on for another like 20 minutes. I'll probably have replaced you partway in with an image of you as young Bravo, just because, like I said, it's kind of you're kind of all pixelated in that. So we'll just stick with the audio and put a nicer picture of you up so people can see your lovely rippling pectorals. But this has been. This has been genuinely a really good time. I've really enjoyed this conversation, especially as a creator. Like this is just something I'm passionate about as well as Flesh and Blood. So this has been very engaging for me. I'm gonna try to title it something, and that will engage people because I do feel like this is one of those topics, unfortunately, that like isn't as engaging as like, oh, Flesh and Blood has an issue or something like that. So
Yeah.
I will try and sell.
I'm like the feel good like dude in
Yeah,
LSS. I'm just like, hey guys, just have fun. I'm not here to talk to you about mechanics. So but yeah,
yeah. All
no,
right. But this has been
I,
absolutely wonderful.
I appreciate the chat, man. It's been good. Yeah, and there's so much to talk about that I'm sure there'll be a next time. In the future, there's always something going on. So yeah,
Absolutely.
it's been fun.
Well, thank you everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this and gave you a little bit of insight into LSS, their inner workings, and the marketing, and then also some help for my fellow content creators. And I do want to say just at the end, very quick before I close this out, that like I do hope all of you do well with your content creation. Like if you find what you're passionate about, follow that passion and hope to do the best you can. But with all that said, I'll shut up for once, and we will see you in the next one. As Alex unfortunately lags like crazy on my screen, and he's still talking from like a minute ago. Yeah, definitely replacing it with an image. But anyways, we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. If you like this video and wanted to support me, consider checking out my Patreon. There's extra bonuses like Talishar card sleeves, early access to videos, and even your own GigaChat card. And to those who are already supporting me, you have my undying thanks. It's because of Chads like you that I can continue to do what I do. So please, stay Chadly, my friends.